We are live, attempting right now to bring you a screen share of a hearing that would allow increase in slaughter of bears, black bears in California. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you will hear this. You can call in to comment and speak for Voiceless Bears by following and clicking on the Zoom link below that is included in this description, our live description. So it doesn't matter where you're from, black bears need a voice, a human voice to speak up for them.
Can you share the screen presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, and I have to put on slideshow. Okay, can you see the slides?
We're still seeing your sort of workplace view.
Okay. Let's see.
I am seeing the slides for what it's worth.
Yeah, we're seeing the slide. We're also seeing the side view here. Yeah, but it's not a big deal. We can see it.
Yeah. Would it be easier for you to?
Right side, it'll open up to full view. Presentation down at the lower right corner, next to the slide bar.
This is them getting ready to do their presentation. We don't know what they're planning, but the consideration is increasing bear slaughter in California. We need everybody. There's many people with their hands raised. I'm going to raise my hand to speak, and you should too.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Brett Furness. I'm acting supervisor of the Big Game Unit at the department. Today, I'm going to be updating you on the bear management plan
and speak up for Voiceless Bears. The Zoom link is in the description. Every single voice helps.
Back in April, regarding the
this is the presentation. There will be public comment after the presentation.
Bear hunting, they rejected that, but the follow-up was that we would update or provide a draft update to the management plan within 1 year, and a central piece of that is modernizing our approach to monitoring the size of California's bear population statewide and locally, and also providing the WRC and through that the public regular updates on our progress towards that. And so our guiding principle in this is to do our And we will be making direct contacts, especially to tribes in Northern California, where most of the bear are. And we're open to doing combined consultation because I know a lot of different letters are going out to the tribes about elk, bobcat, the state wildlife action plan, etc. So if there are opportunities to have meetings with tribes and get their input on multiple species and issues, we're open to that as well. But the bottom line is that we're actively seeking input so that we can find ways to incorporate these ideas and integrate them into the plan. Last but not least, here is our draft outline that we have so far that we've developed through the technical advisory group for revising the bear management plan. And you can see that I'm just showing you the sections here. Each one of these has a variety of subsections, which I can go over briefly verbally with you here. And the structure of this, we really thought about organizing it in terms of process, not the topics. So that was one thing that we noticed when we reviewed plans from other provinces, other states and provinces, is that sometimes plans would just kind of the laundry list of all different types of topics, and it wasn't clear how everything was related, versus things that were organized by objectives and showed how information could be used in guiding management. So we've tried to organize that outline in that latter form that provides a framework for structured decision making. And so I can summarize a bit of what we have here for the outline. We start with an executive summary. That's always useful. So you don't you can get the takeaway points from the plan without going into all the details at first. And then what we've noticed that other state and province plans have done well is starting with kind of what the overarching purpose and legal framework is. And so we could look at different models for conservation, like the North American model that's been mentioned, but also there are other ones out there as well. So we'd look at those, the Fish and Game Code that's applicable, spelling out the role of tribal authority, stakeholder engagement, summarizing the review of plans from other states and provinces, and then boiling this all down to really come up with what are the objectives for this plan. So this idea of having a plan that is governed through a process, what the process is, it's very helpful to kind of say what are the objectives of bear conservation and management, and then show in the rest of the plan how information is used to inform that. We would summarize also provide a summary of black bear biology and ecology. Often in other plans, this is a really large section and it's just kind of a rehashing of a literature review. So we would really not do that as much and really try to summarize what the salient takeaway points are in terms of the ecology and biology, because there are other literature reviews out there that you can do that in more detail. Then we would provide what is the conservation framework. So that obviously includes managed hunting. That's a big part of the picture for bear management, but also including all the other equally important things. So climate change and land use, so that would include wildfire that I heard mentioned in comments earlier today, genetic diversity, health, so the population health, but also, individual animal welfare, effects of bears on other wildlife, human-wildlife conflict, and other human dimensions of bear conservation and management. So that's an area that can include
you fuckers.
Hello? Okay, and so we would also, then the heart of this plan would be population monitoring and modeling. And then also the next section would be other data for informing conservation and management. So not just the population numbers, but genetics, movement ecology, health and welfare monitoring, human dimensions monitoring, and community science. So the community science, sometimes referred to as citizen science, includes for example, the bear teeth that hunters are providing us, which is our best source of age information, but it include other things too. I showed at the April meeting how we use citizen science from iNaturalist, and this may also be a good area, a good section to discuss traditional ecological knowledge as well. Then adaptive management. There's in the current management plan, there's a decision matrix for triggering management recommendations based on indirect methods, measures like the median age of females. With having actual population numbers, we can incorporate that in here as well for how we use that information in terms of looking at the population at the state as well as local scales. Communication and outreach, co-management with tribes and other partners, and then importantly, a periodic review and updating of this plan. How often would that happen? And then the last section is really what are the research needs, the resources, and organizational support required for plan implementation. So we can come up with a plan, but we also have to discuss what is necessary to be successful in implementing that plan. What type of information do we need, and what types of
Hey, Brett.
we need to. Yes.
Brett, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. It's a little noisy here in the room, but want to make you aware, we actually lost our computer connectivity here several minutes ago.
Okay.
And yeah, you were just starting item 3, so I apologize. We're getting reconnected here, but we may need to go back and have you summarize from 3 on.
Okay, I can definitely do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Melissa, this is Chad. We were hearing it fine on the Zoom, so I think the participants got what Brett was covering.
Yeah, it just, Commissioner Zavaleta we didn't hear anything beyond that point.
Well,
It's been silent at this end.
I can briefly summarize those last points.
Okay, so give us a minute. She's reconnecting us, and it'll take just another minute. Thank you for everyone's patience.
Many years ago.
Can you hear us now?
So we need to mute your machine.
Maybe we should break for lunch while he's fixing his little hoop-off.
And we are live at California Fish and Game hearing. You can see how disorganized it is.
I can hear
They're
you. This
having
is
all
Brett.
sorts of technical problems.
Yay.
It's truly unfortunate.
Thanks everyone's for your patience.
Meanwhile, the
Apologies
future of
for-
bears in
for the
California is at
technical
stake,
woes.
and they're
Okay,
talking
so
about
I'm not
breaking
sure
for
where
lunch.
everyone could hear that, but
Unbelievable.
we lost Brett at number 3.
But
Black
power
Explorer.
through, keep your hands raised,
So we're gonna have
and
to circle back.
pray that
because
we
those
can
of us who are in
comment,
the room
speak
here
for the
missed
voiceless
anything
animals.
that happened after the beginning of the bear ecology overview.
Okay, so I was talking about outreach to California tribes. Had I begun that section? Can you hear me?
Brett, we can hear you on Zoom. I think they were mentioning that you were on item 3 of slide 4, I believe.
Okay, all right. So
But Brett, let's confirm they're dialed back in.
yeah, I can't hear them responding or any background noise.
This is unbelievable. We're at a California Fish and Wildlife hearing monitoring.
All
bringing it to
right,
you live.
apologies. We're
Complete
having trouble in the
disorganization.
conference room again.
A lot of technical problems they're experiencing. By the way, they kept jumping around.
We
They
all
knew
are
this was
apparently
a
getting dropped
controversial
from the
item,
Zoom one
so
at a time.
they took it out of order. And
We
they
can hear you
kept
now,
pushing
Melissa.
it back. Now they're talking about breaking for lunch.
This
I
is
don't
Larry
think they
Fawn. I
will.
was
This
disconnected
is
for about 20 minutes,
truly
and I'm wondering whether
out
we
of
went through
control.
the bear management plan
These are the
comments
people
for
that are
the
going to be
public comment
determining
period.
whether bears survive in California or not.
Not yet,
Wow.
Larry, we're still finishing up the presentation. It sounds like the folks in the room, they're having issues, so we're on hold.
Yeah,
to
they're having
finish up the
issues. This
presentation
is
for a minute.
terrible. This is an
Okay,
embarrassment
thank
in
you.
the state of California that this is what's going on in the most technically advanced state, Silicon Valley. I live in Silicon Beach in the Marina Del Rey area, and this is what's going on while they talk about breaking for lunch, and people have been waiting for hours. I've been waiting since 9 a.m. to speak.
Yes, we can hear
Yeah.
and see you.
Let's
We
get
can
back
hear
to
you.
it.
Terrific. Thank
Keep
you.
your hands raised. Get into Zoom. The Zoom link is
Okay,
on the
well, I
description
will
of this
continue.
live video.
I
Raise your
won't
hand
say
to
much
speak for the
about
Bears.
the
Have your
outreach to
arguments ready.
California
It
tribes
doesn't matter where you're
since I
watching
had
from. It
mentioned
could be
at a
New Zealand.
previous WRC,
This affects the entire planet.
meetings, but we did send out a notice to the 300 tribal groups in California in June and received 5 responses back so far. We've got 2 sets of comments and 3 formal consultations starting, and we intend to follow up with tribes through the tribal committee and directly, so we can incorporate those perspectives as best we can into the plan.
Hey, Brett, for those tribes that would like to provide input that you maybe haven't talked with yet, should they contact you directly, or is there someone else that they should contact?
They can contact me directly, or they can contact our tribal liaisons. So that I believe Chris Stutz is acting for that currently, or we have a tribal resource specialist in the wildlife branch, Sarah Fonseca. I think she's on the call here today. So however they feel most comfortable, any way works with us.
Sure, my number was in, that's fine.
Would I, could we share your email address in the chat? Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead and please share my email address in the chat, and I will. I've got too many screens open. I can't do that right now, but if I can do that afterwards, or you can share it.
We can do it. Not a problem.
Okay.
And Brett, we're seeing your slide 3, and when we lost you, we were on your slide 4, item number 3 in there. So I just want to make sure there we go. That's
okay. All right. So I'm actually further along. Okay, that's good. Okay, so the next thing I was going over was the conservation framework, which would be kind of the list of conservation issues that we would be attempting to address in the revised plan. And I was saying that will obviously include managed hunting, but it will also include everything else. So that includes climate change and land use. So wildfire would be included in that. Genetic diversity, health and animal welfare, also effects of bears on other wildlife species, human wildlife conflict, and other areas of human dimensions of bear conservation and management. So our idea here is to be comprehensive. The meat of the plan will be, in terms of the information that we can bring to bear, is the population modeling and monitoring, which I mentioned earlier, what that looks like, and we're sending that out for peer review too. So we will be including those details in the plan as well. Though I promise I won't put any equations in there. We will really describe it in a way that really anyone can understand. But population information is not the only piece of information we need to bring to bear to inform how best to conserve and manage bears in California. So other sources of information would be discussed too. That includes genetic monitoring, movement ecology, health and welfare monitoring of bears, human dimensions monitoring, and community science. And so community science, I was mentioning, includes some of the information like the iNaturalist detections that amateur photographers take, and that have been useful in us looking at trends over time in bear populations. but other things too, as well as this might be a good place to acknowledge and address traditional ecological knowledge. All of this information would be incorporated into like an adaptive management framework. The current bear management plan has a decision matrix for triggering when the department would make recommendations about either hunting or conservation. And that includes measures like the median age of females, which in the past that's been used as like an indirect indices of the population status. If we're actually going to be collecting actual population numbers, then we would be figuring out how we could include that. So if the population trend is more than X or less than Y, or the population drops below B or goes above C. So those sorts of things are what we would be discussing and figuring out how to include those in the structured decision-making part of this plan. Those would apply both to the statewide scale, but also locally. And so there were people that were commenting earlier today, concerns about, local impacts of fires. So the hope is that we would have the information to allow us to evaluate effects of bears at local scales too. And then we would be also discussing communication outreach, co-management with tribes and other partners, and then also how to periodically review and update this plan. How often would that happen? And lastly, and quite importantly, you can have a plan, but then you need the research and the resources and the organizational support to be able to implement that plan successfully. And so we would discuss those things. What do we need to do in terms of data collection, management and analysis, communication of the results, collaboration and co-management. So that is, at this point, a summary for everyone on where we are in developing that outline and the steps that we've taken so far for revising the plan. So thank you for your time and patience with all the technological glitches.
And thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
And thank you for that wonderful presentation, Dr. Ernest. I think
now
I just have
public
one
comment
question,
is
but I
going to be
want to
starting
then,
after
turn to
commentary
comment.
from those in the room.
Questions from
Please,
staff
if you
and
care about bears, go to the Zoom
I guess
link
my question is just
included in the
on that
description to
issue
this
of tribal
live video.
input.
Click on it
300
and raise your hand.
outreach
This
notifications
is
and 5
outrageous.
responses
We
so
need
far.
to speak
So
for
we're doing a
voiceless
tribal
bears.
committee. There's other ways
He
to do
said
that. I'm
this
just
plan
wondering
would
whether
obviously
there's
include
a
hunting.
piece in there
Shows
about
his bias.
calling or making
Let's
visits
speak up.
to tribes, even if it's by sort of regional partners, not from the central office, since those numbers are kind of low, as you said.
I think that's a great idea. I'm new to this. I'm not sure what the best way to do it is. So I'm open to any ideas you or others have on how to do this.
And I think that's great. It seems like maybe
Your house is on
our
fire.
tribal advisor. would be somebody else
Actually,
who
I
could
think
work with that.
I think Chris Stoops and Sarah Fonseca, as well as our tribal advisor and liaison Chuck Strickland, would all be happy to help with identifying, particular tribes and ways for communicating and reaching out to them.
Are any of those actual tribal members?
Those are government to government outreach to, yeah.
No, I mean, the
Yes,
people
Chuck-
that you're.
Chuck is
a
tribal
outreach
member,
are
yeah.
they tribal members?
Yes,
Chris
they are.
and et cetera, yeah.
And, I just want to, wait till that.
Sorry.
All right, yeah, please mute your phone.
I should.
Once again, we're at live at a California Fish and Wildlife hearing that is disorganized, doesn't even begin to
Yeah, I also
describe
wanna,
it. It's
applaud
a complete mess,
the
and
initiatives that sort of
it
do
seems
look
like one of their
at
priorities
the
is, are we going to
issues
break for lunch?
that we care about in tribal committee as well.
Unbelievable. People have
There are a
been
lot of
waiting
requests
since
for
9 in the morning.
consultation, so
It's
that
now
may be
going on
another-
hour 3.
another
We've
way
been waiting to comment.
increase participation, as you said.
Let's go back to the
Okay, I
hearing.
want to turn it over to, I see, yeah. Scott, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. One, I think you hit it right on the tribal council. And in fact, the letter, we're looking for those opportunities, actively looking for them. And in fact, our letter was modified from previous, templates that we've sent out that were, not just a passive, here's a letter, and if we don't hear from you, you know, we've reached out. I mean, we're looking for those active opportunities to engage. So, you know, any good ideas there would be great. And we're going to continue to follow through as well. And then the other comment I wanted to make, I know there's a lot of comments here, and obviously up to the, you know, commission to decide how you want to move through this. I would just, you know, set it up by saying we've heard a lot of the issues that are involved in bear management. We're certainly taking those into account. And at this point in time, what would be most helpful to us would be commenting on the items that we have, you know, included largely in the outline of how we plan to approach the bear plan. Is there something we're missing in there? You know, that's the point that we're at right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I just want to underscore that. So just for context for folks who are not deeply familiar with how all this works. So the department is developing this bear management plan. And that is not something that the commission will approve or not approve. It's a separate process. What it will do when this management plan is complete, it will guide potentially commission decisions around human wildlife conflict, around bear hunting and so on. And so it's really important that their report reflect the shape that stakeholders include the components that stakeholders want to see in that guiding document. So I want to just amplify that comments about things that need to be in that report would be really valuable today. I also want to point out that we have a specific other item related to bear on the under item 11. There is this component of a petition on a second bear tag, and so that is the place to comment on that specific petition for specific bear hunting change, regulation change. So please hold comments if you have comments on second bear tag, in particular for item 11. More broadly, we're going to close the queue at some point here. It's closed. Okay, the queue is closed. Thank you for comments, because there are many, many, many comments on the list. Comments, hands raised, excuse me. And I just want to emphasize that if you have the same thing to say as someone else, again, you're welcome to indicate that you agree with the previous speaker and to add any additional points that haven't been made yet. Given the large number of speakers, I also want to ask speakers to be mindful of the time. It could balloon into an hour of comments very easily if we aren't doing that. Okay. Great. So comments on the bear management plan. And again, today in this item, we are not considering
wow, they just want us to keep
to bear
quiet,
hunting
right?
regulations.
They
We are
just want
focused on
us
the
to just
foundational
rubber stamp.
documents that
They
provide
don't
those future
they
decisions.
don't want to hear
Are
our
there
input.
comments in the room?
Just
to
keep
begin
it
with?
short.
Can we ask questions? on
Keep
the
it short.
presentation?
We really don't want to hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are people saying conserve means to kill?
And we need to take comments from the room first, and then Cynthia will be calling on Zoom participants to make their comments in the order that we received their raised hand.
Okay, real quick, thanks Brett for your presentation. Again, Roger Dobson, Protect the Wolves. We're a Native American religious 501c3. We represent about 200,000 people, are currently endorsed by Alaska Intertribal Council, which represents 185 Alaskan tribes. Based on Brett's presentation, you are currently basing a plan upon no data currently available, if I understood his statement properly. And I've seen two different reportings from state of California, one quoting 30 to 40,000 as the current bear population. And hunting, the hunting license arm is only reporting 15,000. So I'm trying to figure out where they're coming up with these two different estimates and why they're forcing Brett to do something like this without current data that is presently available. Are tribal comments and response available, or do we need to request those under a FOIA? I mean, tribes are government, and as such should be publicly available without a FOIA. So that's just my two questions on this.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask that we, normally I would hold it till the end, but I think maybe in the interest of informing other folks who might be interested in similar questions, I want to give Brett or others of the department a chance to respond to these questions.
Maybe could I start, Brett, and just
Yes, go ahead.
point people to a very extensive presentation that was given at the April committee meeting regarding, you know, our understanding of bear population size and the science that we have available to that. Brad, I'm not sure if you know specifically the difference between these numbers and what licensed LRB. I don't think LRB would be reporting a population size. That would be unusual.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have, you know, put up annual harvest reports on.
So you just heard, they don't even know the number of bears. One
we
report says
do
15,000, the other report says
our estimates of
34,000.
Bear population size
And
using the
oh, they're
older
going to do this
model,
taxpayer-funded
that I
study about bear
mentioned,
management.
at the April meeting,
and
which did say that the population could
this
be
is
as
shocking,
low as
really.
15,000.
This
and
is shocking, and it
I
seems
think
like their
that's
primary
something that
focus is,
precipitated
oh,
a lot of concern.
we don't want a lot of public
And
comment
so
because we
at
want to go to
the
lunch.
April meeting, I provided a fairly long presentation where I explained that the issue wasn't so much with the data, but that we were using an outdated model. And so we have a new model. It's going through peer review. Initial results suggest that there's at least 30,000 or more bears. But the point of the management plan isn't to make decisions about management. That is the role of the Fish and Game Commission. We're just putting together a plan for how the type of information that we will need and how that would be used to evaluate the population status with regard to hunting or other things. So the plan is being transparent about what our process for modernizing bear counting will be. And so that we have to start somewhere, and you know, that is what we were asked to do by the commission, is to provide regular updates, and so things can't be more transparent, and so that if you look at the website, you don't get confused. And so the plan will probably address that as well, of like how we communicate this information as well. And the plan is about a process that we are proposing to have moving forward, not the results of what the population number is or how that's going to be.
If you're just joining us, they are discussing a bear management plan in California. And they say
And for
things
those
like,
who are interested,
obviously,
the April
it will
Commission
include
meeting that
hunting.
Bear Agenda
Why
Idaho was
obviously?
quite a
We're
good
racing
link
toward
with a lot of detail.
extinction.
And so staff is
There's no
looking for
reason
that
to
link, so we'll post
obviously
it in the
include
chat
bear
for anyone
hunting in
who wants to go
anything.
take a look
And
at
as you can see, there's discrepancy about how many bears there are in
Mr.
California.
Lincoln, comments on that?
Is it
There was one
15,000?
other
Is it
comment
more
there, I
than
think, with
30,000?
respect to tribal. I'm not exactly sure what it was.
Question is whether tribal input is available for the public to review, and whether there's a way to access those tribal responses to your outreach.
I think that's something I'm not an expert in. If somebody wants to comment, that would be great. But we have to be cautious about, you know, what is appropriate to share in those consultations. And I guess I would say at this point in time, we will appropriately certainly roll up tribal consultation and what we did in the bear plan.
Great, yeah, it sounds like, Roger, if you want to follow up with the department, we can work to identify. who
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna
reach out to
get
there.
the information that I need.
Okay.
Other things, so I think you can just contact Scott and have a
Yeah,
conversation.
that's right.
But
Other comments here in the room?
Yes, Matthew, go first, go ahead.
Yes, will non-consumptive users be consulted in this process?
Question again, Scott or Brett, would you like to answer that? I mean, I think Brett covered that, but.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there will be a public comment process, you know, across the board.
Yeah, that's totally the goal of the plan.
We're
And
live at the
so,
California Department of Fish and Wildlife hearing.
You know, email us.
Where they are
or this
considering
is
a
form
bear
right here,
management plan
WRC,
that the official
and,
who made the
you
presentation
know,
said
there's
obviously includes
minutes of
hunting,
this meeting, and I looked
showing
at
their
them closely.
bias. Then
And I
as
will bring
they're
them up with our
about to
technical
introduce
advisory
public
group.
comment now, they say
But that
basically,
is our
please keep
goal,
it short and
is,
don't repeat yourself.
to acknowledge
And they
address those
discuss
concerns
breaking for
as
lunch.
best we can.
The
Grant,
system is
we
broken,
can sort of,
and
is
this is
it
Exhibit
reasonable to
A.
expect the draft plan to come to WRC? It's going to be next spring, 1 year out from the April full commission meeting roughly. Is that right?
That's what we're shooting for.
Okay, great. Yeah, so folks understand the timeline. That'll be the point where there's a draft to review and comment on as well. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to commend Brett for doing a fine job. I would like to communicate with him, so I'll give you guys permission to share my phone number with him, as you gave me his email. Maybe we can also introduce him to our tribal connections within our Teamster Union, our Native Americans that are part of our union members for Preservation of Wildlife International, because we represent quite a few Native American groups that trust in us. Also, I wanted to mention that you guys are doing a swell job. Melissa, Erica, and Ari, if you have bosses listening, I just want to commend you guys. Very cordial, very hospitable.
She is the boss.
How do I comment? Okay, well, wonderful. This is Big Film Live, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, no, I just want to say, job well done, as you're very cordial, very hospitable, and giving us all a chance to say what we have to say. You've been very accommodating for us, and I'm one of your worst critics of California Fish and Game Commission or California Fish and Wildlife, but the simple fact that
We're the worst.
But no, I did want to comment the fact that our Native American entities and animal rights groups do oppose any second act. But and that I hope that we have a chance to go ahead and explain to you why we're against the extra hunting or even hunting of the sacred bear, our sacred as well. So, but by all means, feel free to reach out to us with the card that I gave you. I would like to speak with Brett sometime. So he could be expecting a call from me, or if you guys give him my number, you can call me. That's fine. Thank you.
And again, that second bear tag issue, we'll have opportunity for folks to comment on that a little bit later today as well. Any other comments here in the room? Yes, please.
Hi there. Thank you so much for allowing me the time and space and the education that I've received. My name is Elijah Alexander. I'm an artist. I'm also here as a representative of Project Coyote, which many of you know, Camilla Fox. I'm also an actor, and I'm going to be playing the role of Captain Obvious here. I'm learning a lot about this April meeting, which I wish I had attended. I have some really pedestrian questions, and maybe I'll save that for the end. There are some numbers in question here, and Brett addressed some of those, but the numbers I have that my organization presented me with or armed me with are that the black bear population in California is showing a population decline of 67%. So, and I think Brett mentioned this, that they're now conservatively estimated at 30,000 to 40,000 on the CDFW website, whereas department estimates were previously around as low as 9,700. So I'm just, I guess, advocating for awareness, greater transparency, better communication, and obviously that's what Brett is doing with this revised plan to get that data more up to date and current. So I applaud those efforts, because that's the baseline for everything, right? So I guess I'll just speak to my understanding of science, which acknowledges that bears are feeling, thinking, self-aware beings who undoubtedly value their lives and well-being. This is a part of my perspective as an animal rights activist and an advocate for the prevention of murdering bears at all. Empirically and holistically, we know that bears and humans share most of the chemical, biological, anatomical, and to some extent, cognitive and emotional structures, allowing for the sharing of basic emotions, interests such as joy, stress, sociability, wanting freedom from harm, and the necessity to live and flourish. So this is an ethical question. I know I'm not the first to bring this up. Many have echoed it earlier. Many in this room have echoed it. I'm just throwing another voice into the room as someone who is reminding us all and being reminded myself that he's a living, breathing, sentient being that require, deserve as a basic right to live are everything that we can do to protect and serve them. They're benefactors to nature. They're an integral part of the cycle of life that helps our ecosystems flourish. Members of our multi-species community and deserve our protection rather than our persecution. Most Californians, an overwhelming majority, already oppose black bear hunting entirely. So I'm getting caught up to speed here in terms of moratorium that's not being honored. And I guess my question is, while this new plan is being revised, devised, and developed, is there a moratorium in place? Shouldn't there be? Shouldn't there be a limitation on killing while all of this new data and research is being done? Because if the populations are as in decline as we think, then that might necessitate leaving them alone. Just a question. The populations are already in trouble, given all the threats, climate change, dwindling population numbers, which will be confirmed. They're also self-regulating animals. They control their own population, like coyote. What is it? The females breed every 2-3 years, and it 3 to 4 cubs each. Also, hunters tend to hunt in their own local territories. Therefore, this is a question to be dealt with. Issuing an additional bear tag, which is
Something we'll talk about later.
something we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to ask
That's
you to, oh,
Yes.
okay.
No, please.
Thank you.
Please.
I just wanted to ask you to wrap it up if you could, only
Wrap
because,
it up.
yeah, we've got a whole queue of people online as well. Thank you for your
I
comments.
had a note to be even more succinct than I was. I appreciate your respect and attention. And yes.
Well, and to your question, I think that link, we need to make sure also gets the people in the room to the April meeting materials, presentation and conversation, because I think that is where really like we'll get a full explanation of the rationale why there's not a moratorium during the period of the 1-year plan development process.
Understood. Please forgive my ignorance.
It's okay.
That's why
I just want to make sure that I did answer your question, and just to also, to remind folks that this is not today a place where we're making decisions on this item about bear hunting per se. So to encourage input about what we need to make sure is in that management plan to inform those kinds of decisions down the line as well.
Some of the stuff you were making decisions, so, but
We do have a decision on item 11, so I encourage folks to hold those comments for item 11, and I want to check in to see whether anyone else in the room comments this item. And otherwise, turn it over to Cynthia to please take comments from our Zoom participants.
Can I ask one question? We had a question in the chat from, this is for Brett. Brett, maybe someone misheard you, or maybe.
So we are here live at a public hearing of the California Fish and Wildlife, Fish and Game, and we're talking about the hunting of black bears. And what's so striking to me is that these officials keep telegraphing they've postponed public comment. It is now noon. I got on this at 9 a.m.
No,
Okay, they've gone out of order to push this back.
Bears are in Northern California. And so we want to outreach to northern tribes as well as tribes throughout California because that is where the bears are. So the most bears are in Northern California. That's what I said, not that they are in tribal lands.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Cynthia, I'll turn it over to you to manage the Q&A line.
Our first people will be Katie Nolan, then we will hear from Jenny Berg, followed by Allison D.
Now
Katie,
public comment,
and
finally,
go ahead.
10, 11, 12, 3 hours later.
Hi all, and good morning, or I guess good afternoon now. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to Brett for your presentation. I'm Katie Nolan, General Campaigner with In Defense of Animals. We're an international animal protection nonprofit with 250,000 supporters who care about animals, including black bears. I'm joining you this morning to speak on behalf of our organization on the Bear Management Plan. We urge you to consider non-lethal and respectful management strategies that prioritize the coexistence of bears and humans and recognize the value of black bears to humans and the environment. We appreciate that Brett mentioned in the outline the consideration of recent weather events related to climate change, as well as the individual welfare of bears, and we encourage you to emphasize these in your plan. Bears play a vital role in the ecosystem. They maintain populations of other species, including insects, squirrels, and mice. They also help to spread berry and plant seeds throughout their habitat. And in recent years, there's been an uptick in wildfires, heat waves, and other severe weather events, as we all know, related to the climate crisis, which has put a strain on bears living in and around affected areas. This makes it more difficult for them to find food. And so we'd like to encourage that the management plan address these threats and consider habitat restoration as a solution. Again, we urge you to adopt a bear management plan that prioritizes the well-being of bears and recognizes the importance of bears to humans and the ecosystem. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for being so gracious with allowing all of these public comments.
Thank you.
Jenny Berg, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you, Brett, for your presentation. I'm Jenny Berg, the California State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. On behalf of our members and our supporters, we are very grateful to the Department of Fish and Wildlife for taking on the development of a black bear management plan, including undergoing a peer review using academic biologists and holding forthcoming stakeholder process. We would appreciate the opportunity to participate in the development of a plan at the earliest possible stage. Substantial new social and scientific information about black bears has emerged in the last 24 years since California's last black bear management plan was published. In May, we submitted a letter outlining 10 elements that we would like to see, including a scope of the management plan. And we are happy to provide the document again upon your request. One thing missing in the outline would be potentially adding a bear ecotourism analysis. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak, and thank you again.
Yep.
Allison D.
Hi, I'm Dr. Allison Dahlman, Cambria, California. Black bears should not be hunted because 99% of Californians don't hunt bears and actually want bear hunting banned. Please stop ignoring us. We love our wildlife and enjoy watching them alive. Hunting is a rejection of their intrinsic value, which the Commission and CDFW has previously acknowledged. In decline since 2013, the black bear population estimates are so diverse that an accurate count should be conducted before any killing is even considered. The population model does not account for vehicle strikes or climate change. 2021 had record level wildfires, late frosts, drought, all reducing habitat and food, yet these are not being considered in population estimates. Bears contribute top-down benefits to ecosystems, so protecting them helps us. Black bears are self-regulating and don't need human management. Killing. Females don't reach adulthood until 4, have 2 to 3 cubs only every 2 to 3 years if there's enough food. Wildfires, habitat loss, and drought reduce their food sources, significantly hindering their survival. Killing them disturbs their social structure and reproduction, especially since hunters kill breeding adults, often orphaning cubs with little chance of survival. As a veterinarian, I know they feel, think, have emotions, are sentient beings, and experience joy, stress, sociability, and search for safety, just as we and our companion animals do. They have a hard enough life as it is. Please let them live in peace and accept that they and we, the majority of California, deserve coexistence and respect for our amazing bears and all wildlife. Thank you so much for your time. Good day.
Yeah. Christina Hughes, followed by Charlie W. and then Marilyn Gass.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. So I understand that we are expressing our support for the ban of black bear management. And the few speakers who already spoke before, they provided all the facts and information that you need. And once again, I feel like Department of Fish and Wildlife spent so much time and effort on allowing hunters and interest of the hunters to dominate so much of the department resources. And I have not seen a presentation of full length that teaches us how to coexist with wildlife, with the coyotes, with the deers, with the black bears, with every single animal out in nature. All I see as a member of the public is how we can manage, and in essence, it's always about killing them, and it's about trapping them. So I really would encourage if you would take leadership and give us presentations on new, innovative, ecologically sound, safe for everyone, on these presentations for us to see also. And give us more time to learn about better ways to coexist, as opposed to constantly finding out how we can control, manage, and basically end up killing wildlife. There's new legislation about creating wildlife corridors through areas that have proven to show wildlife passages. Now that's a great example. And I'd like to see your department, federal department, take some leadership in that and help the local states and cities with some of this, helping us to manage it, helping us to outreach to folks. And that is one of the best things that we can do. So it's the wildlife corridor, and it's ways to teach neighbors living in wildlife areas how to coexist and not constantly stirring up fear and resentment towards the restrictions on humans. And this is about having a different attitude about wildlife. Let them live, let them have autonomy, and let them survive. They've done nothing wrong. I mean, give us one reason why wildlife constantly has to be managed and killed. We've brought up examples of allowing other wildlife to survive, such as coyotes and wolves, so that they can take care of the natural ecology of the life and death cycles in nature. And I wish the department would also explore those theories on how to address wildlife issues. Thank you so much.
Charlie W., you can go ahead. Bill, need to unmute yourself. We can come back to start about Marilyn Jasper. You go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Marilyn Jasper, Public Interest Coalition. State regulatory agencies' mandate includes protecting and holding wildlife in the public trust. However, the extreme disconnect between over 99% of Californians who do not hunt to kill and regulatory agencies' controversial policy making, ignoring that fact, must be acknowledged. Furthermore, the vast majority of California's public opposes killing of wildlife for fun, consumption, contests, trophies, and or so-called quote unquote sport, which it certainly is not. Black bear management plans must include killing moratoriums and decreasing the state's quote kill quotas instead of illogically and controversially increasing them while bear populations decline. Last, to avoid conflicts of interest and such disconnects, staff or others who do not hunt to kill should make up 99% of the committees making these bear or other wildlife management plan decisions. Thank you so much.
CFGC, we are back to you.
Thank you.
You can go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry to the commission and everyone. It seems like most people that are speaking missed the last meeting where Brett Furness did give a full comprehensive report on the population of bear in California. But I guess that's fallen on deaf ears. But with regards to the management plan that is going to take place, I would call for a comprehensive analysis of methods of take regardless of current status or law. So sticking to science, sticking to wildlife science. I would like to see in there the effects, whether it's pros or con of a spring bear hunt. I'd like to see the effects, whether it's pros or con of the use of hounds, because really what we're getting at here is we need wildlife science to guide us. What is best for the population of bear? What is best for the population of ungulates? What is best, and on down the line. And you asked for our comments on the management plan that is going to take place. And I could go on and on about other stuff, but I'm trying to respect my time and respect what you asked for. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have Christina Andrus and then Dr. Levitt, followed by Randy Byron. Christina, you can go.
Yes, hello everyone. I'd like to thank the board again for opening up this discussion. I'm from Greenville and Plumas County. I'd like to thank Brett Furness for the revised bear plan presentation. One thing I was really excited to hear him say is that the study will be subjected to an external peer review. That was a component that was severely lacking in regards to the validity of the study at the meeting held back in April. I'm excited to hear that there will be updates in data collection methods, which are 50 years old, or the equipment was, as stated also at the meeting in April. And thank you very much for your time. I believe science is a component of this study, but we do need to look at the big picture as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Levitt.
Hello, like the majority of Californians, I want to see black bears protected, and out of respect for your time, I'll just say that I agree with the statements made by the representatives of the Humane Society of the US and In Defense of Animals who spoke previously. And I hope the new management plan will focus on black bear well-being rather than the interests of hunters. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Randy Byron.
Good afternoon. I asked that California's new black bear management plan consider all the benefits that the black bears present. You know, bears are of considerable ecotourism value to all of our local communities and are so important to the ecology of their habitats. According to National Park Service's 2021, more than 3 million park visitors spent an estimated $437 million in local gateway regions while visiting Yosemite National Park. And in doing so, they support 5,600 jobs, $603 million in economic output in local gateway economies. Many people go to Yosemite National Park hoping to view and photograph these beautiful, majestic black bears. Black bears contribute to the biological diversity through their
for various feeding behaviors. For example, bears spread more seeds than birds. The new management plan should consider that since it was not last updated since, what was it, 1998, California's landscape has radically changed for bears, including the climate crisis, which we all know, the worst drought that we are all right now experiencing. And we've had record heat waves and wildfires. All of these factors combined mean that bears must work so much harder to find food, resulting in record numbers of vehicle-bear collisions, and especially for, the young mother bears with their cubs. On a final note, I also attended the groundbreaking of Wallace Annenberg's Wildlife Crossing Bridge here in Agora a couple months ago. All the state officials were there, and it was one theme: protect our wildlife. I hope this will carry through to the revised bear management plan with total respect to protecting our wildlife while coming up with their new plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we have Nancy Oliver, then Jane Velez-Pittsburgh, followed by Lee O'Brien.
I'd like to thank Katie Nelson, Jenny Berg, Randy Filich especially, and Dr. Allison D., Christine Koo, Marilyn Jasper, Christine Anthers, and Dr. Levitt for their comments. They said everything I wanted to say, so I wanted to thank them for that. But I also wanted to reply to Charlie W., who stated earlier that about 100 years ago, there was a dearth of wildlife, and but for the hunters, we wouldn't have wildlife today, basically, or we wouldn't have so much. But when the Europeans first arrived about hundreds of years ago, there was an enormous abundance of what happened. It's not the hunters that are bringing wildlife back based on their management, but it's the territory lost to animals, climate change, and severe pollution. So their artificial reproduction of deer doesn't solve the problem. We need real management and protection, thinking towards the animals rather than human entertainment. Thank you for allowing me to make this comment.
Jane Velez-Mitchell.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes? Okay, I represent Unchained TV, which is a nonprofit global streaming network for animal rights, and we are live streaming this hearing, and you would not believe the comments. People are shocked and outraged at the hunting-centric attitude. And, when I hear people who are officials in the hearing warn the public, don't repeat yourself, don't repeat yourself. What I hear is, please accept our premise that hunting is going to be a part of the management solution. We do not accept that premise. Indeed, in his presentation, the official who explained what he is proposing, what he would like you to approve, said, obviously including hunting. No, not obviously including hunting. We are in the midst of the sixth mass extinction. We are wiping out animals at such a rapid rate that in a decade or so, we may literally have no wild animals left. It is time to get out of 19th century and at best 20th century thinking and get into the 21st century. And one of the commentators spoke about science. Yeah, it's like facts and alternate facts. So what is it? Is it 34,000 bears? Is it 9,700 bears? Okay. I do believe the population of black bears has radically decreased in this state, and it wouldn't surprise me if there are inflations of figures going on in order to justify the continued hunting of bears. I hate to be cynical, but I've seen it so many times. As far as seeking input, seeking indigenous input, the representative who spoke on behalf of the indigenous people in this hearing said, indigenous people are against the hunting of the sacred bear. And you know what? I've seen this in hearing after hearing, whether it's Fish and Wildlife or the Coastal Commission, on and on and on. When you seek input, generally it seems like you're seeking a rubber stamp. You want to get the answer you want. You want to get people on board with your solutions. And what the people of California are saying is no more. We are in a climate crisis. We are barreling toward a climate apocalypse. Old thinking is stinking and it's going to kill us all. I beg you to wake up and have an attitude adjustment and realize that this fish and game hunting mentality is destroying everything. Please, dear God, think about what you're doing. Thank you.
And Jane, I have to respond to your interpretation of the comment that repeated the repetition of points is only aimed at certain viewpoints, and to encourage you to check out footage of meetings in which we've had hundreds of hunters show up to comment, and we've asked them the same thing. So that's not something that's only for people who are holding a particular viewpoint. I think it's important for us to respect all views in this forum, including yours, including those of everyone else who may have views different from yours as well. Thank
And
you.
the bears, who can't speak for themselves. Thank you.
Lee O'Brien, the next.
Hi, my name is Lee O'Brien. I am in Winnetka, California, and I want to echo the comments made by my colleagues Jenny Berg and Randy Filich, especially that the management plan is lacking when it comes to talking about ecotourism that bears provide, the benefit of black bear ecotourism in this state. And so I applaud the department for updating the bear management plan since it has been so long since it's been updated. And I ask that they consider all of the benefits that black bears provide and include that component when they are considering the new management plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Nicholas Sackett, Sherman McFarland, and Andrew Laskin. Nicholas, you're next.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Sackett. I'm representing social compassion in legislation. I want to reiterate the comments of the previous speakers in support of not hunting black bears. In the context of the outline presented earlier, we would strongly urge, recognition of social science, i.e. the very strong negative public sentiment towards black bear hunting in number 4 and number 6 of that outline. Additionally, we would urge the consideration of animal welfare, that these hunts lead to painful death, such as with the likely outcome for the bear publicized in the Arcadia area with the arrow sticking out of it very recently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sherman McFarland.
Hi, Sherman McFarland speaking as a member of the public. I'd just like to echo the comments made by Katie Nolan from In Defense of Animals, Jenny Berg, Lee O'Brien, Randy Filich from Humane Society, Nicholas Sackett from Social Compassion and Legislation. Just briefly like to note, yes, please consider with respect to the new black bear management plan, all the benefits that black bears provide to people and to the ecosystems. Please consider all of the negative consequences of the climate crisis and this horrific drought we've been living in on bears and their ability to find food, and the consequences of higher bear collisions as a result of traveling farther to find food, and the impacts on all bears, including mothers and cubs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Laskin.
Hi, my name is Andrew Laskin. I live in Sherman Oaks, California. Thank you for the presentation. Just like other commenters, I'd like to urge that instead of focusing on hunting options, that we emphasize non-lethal and humane options, because that is what the majority of Californians actually supports. Also, I understand the motivation to make the bear ecology section in the plan more concise. I just hope that in doing so, we don't lose sight that black bears are critical to California's ecosystem. They're filling in ecologically in some areas for the California grizzly that was overhunted and undervalued 100 years ago. So please let our management plan consider the intrinsic value bears have in our ecosystem as well as in ecotourism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we'll have Wendy Dreskin, Max Fennell, and then Devin O'Day. Wendy, you may need to unmute yourself. We can come back to Wendy. We'll have Max Fennell up.
Hey everyone, I'm back. Max Snell here, founder of United Hunters Project, supporter of Howl for Wildlife. I'm a volunteer with Backcountry Hunters and Angler, as well American Bear Foundation. I mentioned earlier, I am an Indigenous American from the Yamasee tribe. If you want to know more about who the Yamasee tribe is, feel free to Google the Yamasee War of 1715. I was in and out earlier. I'm also happy to make introductions to other California tribes to get their input on these issues. But most importantly, when I'm curious to know how my fellow Native Americans live in California, I actually defer to an entire book called Survival Skills of Native California. And I think it's very important that I give you my Indigenous input as well as what Native Californians say. I'll read this real quick so everyone can learn a little bit more about our heritage. Sam Garfield of the Wachumi and the Yadanchi Yokots told Gayton of the great respect shown deer when they were killed. A hunter would tell the deer he wanted him to rise in 3 days. An ordinary man without special dream power would just say he was sorry he killed the deer. Jim Bridges of the Wachumi spoke of his Wisha father-in-law, Hanashi, whose dream helper was deer. Hanash supplied deer meat to large gatherings. He was a fine hunter. He too ate the meat of the deer, but abstained from it for 3 days after killing one. He spoke to the animal he was about to kill. I'm going to kill you. These people are going to eat you. I kill you every year. In the first world, the Yokots believed deer had been a quiet man who neither talked nor traveled. But when the time came for its transformation into an animal, eagles warned, all your body will be worth something, although it isn't everybody who will be able to kill you. The next morning, deer ran from his home and made a big cave to live in. The day following, thousands of deer joined him. On the third day, 3 hunters, cougar, elk, and spotted cat, came to kill deer. Coyote interfered and caught a deer himself. The other deer became angry and ran, but Cougar, the best hunter, was able to kill some of them. Deer himself still lives back in this cave. When a deer is killed, it goes there. Big Deer has put an arrow up in the cave. When the right sort of person kills a deer respectfully, the arrow holds fast. But a careless hunter can expect the arrow to fall and kill within a month. That's our heritage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Dreskin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm speaking as an individual, not from an organization. As many speakers have already given the many reasons that we should have a moratorium on killing bears. But I would also like to say that I live in a county where all the bears have been killed, and I consider it a really impoverished county in that sense, just as it's impoverished in no longer having condors and other wildlife that used to live here. I urge you to consider the value of bears to people who want to see them, to enjoy them. A hunter takes a bear. That's one person getting to benefit, if you want to call it a benefit, from that bear. This way, if the bears are alive, many people can benefit from the bear's presence. And I would even say that there's a benefit to knowing that an animal exists if you'll never see it. I feel that there's a benefit to me in knowing that polar bears exist, even though I may never in my life get to see one. And yet I would want to know that they're there. I want to know that they're alive. So I would urge you to take the benefits of a living bear to all the people in California into account in your plan, and that people do care whether the bears exist, whether they're even getting to actively see them or not, that's still a value. Thank you.
So before Cynthia calls the next person in the queue, I just wanted to remind folks that we have closed the queue for this agenda item. We've been talking about this for about an hour and a half at this point, and we do have a very lengthy agenda to need to get through. There's been some very good comments. Obviously, Commissioner Chair Zavaleta has been paying close attention. I want to ask Brett if Brett Burnett, if he could also share with participants other ways that they can continue to provide input. We obviously will continue to have dialogue at the commission level, but would also ask Brett if he could share how folks can provide certain input into the development of that management plan as the department moves forward with that.
Yeah, you can email me directly. I'll put my email in the chat right now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brett. So just again, a reminder to folks, the queue has been closed. And if I remember correctly, I believe Dan Ryan was the last individual on the list closed. I just want to maybe amplify whether you were able to get your hand up before the queue closed or not, that this is going to be a recurring conversation at every one of our meetings, and that if there are a lot more people who want to speak to this item and we can't fit it into one WRC meeting, we've done this for other items, we can do it again. We can create a separate special forum just to make sure that every single person can speak. But unfortunately today, in order to not give short shrift to the other items, we're going to stop it where the queue closed.
Commissioner, may I interrupt? This is Chad Dibble, Deputy Director. I don't know if Brett's put his email in there yet, but I think we need to figure out a better pathway than a personal email for Brett for any comments and things that are coming in. So let us get back to you on that if we can. I'm concerned about volumes of comments and based on speakers today and how this has played out so far, that I'd like to for us to figure out a better pathway to manage that. Thank you.
That sounds really reasonable. Thank you. Thank you for that, Chad. And as the Commissioner said, this is an ongoing conversation. So it's not the last time we will be having this dialogue. Everything is going to say, I could get 3 more, maybe plus 10.
Our next speaker will be Max Fennell, followed by Devin O'Day.
I believe Max already spoke. Oh, right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I think Devin's next.
Go ahead, Devin.
Thanks, guys. Devin, again, here from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. As someone who hunts to feed my family and who hunts bears for food, I appreciate the opportunity to speak briefly on this. I'm not a biologist, so I'll skip any personal opinions I have there. I do hope that through this management plan, there will be opportunities for both the consumptive and the non-consumptive community to support the scientific management of wildlife, specifically through citizen science, data collection, or other opportunities for on-the-ground work to support the data that will be used to make scientific decisions. Our organization is working right now through the UC system to fundraise for additional research into black bears, specifically about how they're impacted by fire. And I really hope that hunters and other interested parties here can continue to be a resource for the department as they develop this plan. I also want to thank Max Fennell for sharing his perspective and his heritage with us. And thank you all for your commitment to scientific management of wildlife and black bears in California.
Thank you.
Next is Jonathan Fusaro, followed by Dan Ryan, who will be our last speaker.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I second Devin, Max, and Charles, those in support of this black bear management plan, and I'm really excited that this is up and going. It's been a long time coming. But I do have a comment towards approach to share more information with the public. Our website, the CDFW website, could use a lot more information on there for the public to find addressing a lot of these comments that are coming in. And I'd like to see a list of the literature being reviewed by the department on the website in the bear section. I'd like to see a list of the biologists that are involved in this internal review process, who to be transparent on the information that's coming in and who all is involved. And when it's appropriate and allowed, I'd like to see meeting minutes from what's being discussed and presented by the different biologists and the different tribal organizations as well. And it would also be great if there was kind of like a whole social media section that addresses people's comments and questions, maybe taking clips from the April meeting or addressing specific questions that are just keep coming up over and over again about population management and where the department stands on hunting and where the commission stands on hunting would be really helpful. Maybe just even a PDF of common questions and answers would be, I think, a good idea along with this whole process of developing the bear management plan. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Ryan, go ahead. That'll be our last speaker.
Thank you. Yeah, and I want to thank the commission and the department, obviously, for all the work they're doing on this. I do want to second Devin, Max, Charles, and then Jonathan just now for the comments that they've made. I think it's obvious that there's a lot of uneducated folks on the call about this model, and also the greatest model of conservation being the North American model. It's been in place to show great success throughout the country, not just in California, and it's the reason bears are doing well in California, even during trying times with climate change. So I agree, it'd be great to have more education for folks that don't know, don't understand that, hunters aren't out there decimating populations. And I commend CDFW for attempting to do so, even though it seems like they're advocating hunting. I think they're just trying to educate folks. And so I commend the CDFW on that. So I'm happy to hear the CDFW and the commission are still working on this unbiased management plan to give us tools to better manage populations and allow them to flourish in the state. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment?
I'll allow it, sure.
Thank you. I just noticed that the last speaker stated that those of us who don't agree with him are quote uneducated folks. And I know you mentioned earlier when Jane was speaking, replying to her comments. I mean, I kind of resent somebody saying I'm uneducated. We are.
Understood. Yeah.
Is that really appropriate for this forum?
I appreciate you bringing it up. I think it's really important that there be respect all around. And I think, that was the main reason I responded to Jane's comment as well. I think that,
I never said anybody was uneducated.
I don't think he's referring to you. Yeah.
This last speaker said that those of us who did not agree with him, like you, Jane, and like me, are quote uneducated folks. And I mean, like I said, you responded to her, but you didn't respond to him.
Well, you asked to speak first, so I haven't responded to most of the comments made. But I do want to reiterate. I think I don't want to sort of overinterpret what anyone said. But I want to reiterate. I think respect in these conversations for everyone's perspective, whether it's the same perspective you hold or a different one, is paramount. And we always hold ourselves to that. We did okay, but I do feel like I just need to say that again because I can understand how that does not land comfortably. I think a couple of other things I just wanted to reiterate.
This is Larry Fawn. I had my hand up and raised during the entire meeting.
I have to defer to my colleagues who've been keeping track of the queue, but I think that the queue closed at the beginning of comments. And so, yeah, I apologize you didn't have a chance to comment right now. Yeah, this is not the last opportunity to comment. There are going to be other opportunities to comment on this issue and other ways to comment on this issue. So Chad, I appreciate raising the opportunity to talk to the department directly as well and work on this management plan.
And along that line, I'm just now adding an email address to the chat on Zoom. It's an email address that folks can use to submit any further comments on the bear plan directly to the department.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, during the earlier session when I spoke about bear management issues, you said I will have an opportunity to address that later in the agenda. So I waited for a couple of hours and I had my hand up the whole time. And I didn't get a chance to give my comments.
Yeah, I'm hearing that your hand wasn't up when the when the item arose, and I remember that I told you that this was going to be the time to comment on bear management plan, so I apologize for that.
Actually, this thing is just questions on Brett's presentation.
We're just reviewing a list, so hang in there for a second. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. We don't. So Larry, we don't have you on the list, but I guess I would just ask if you have something new to add, so you can. I want to give you.
I wanted to emphasize, first of all, I'm on the advisory board of Project Coyote, but also a former Sierra Club national president, a lawyer, and wanted to comment about the importance of considering the climate aspects, and that would be the drought, the extreme temperatures, and the wildfires, which is really, really affecting bear habitat, and I don't think being terribly fully considered. And what's happening is when the bears leave the fire zones, they go and get into human-bear conflicts, and then they end up being euthanized because they're in somebody's kitchen. But I wish you all could have seen the full-size bear upside down, shimmying across a rope that was on 12 feet above the ground, and then trying to get to our food, and we had to scare her off. But bears, they're smart as heck, but they can't read evacuation orders, and the tendency towards more fire, more heat, more drought is going to decrease their habitat and their population. And so they need to really consider that when they look at trends for bear management. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
And then if I could also share, Dan Ryan sent me an email message saying apology was taken out of context. It was not at all his intent. He's sorry for offending.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that he was referring to specifically with respect to this issue, and that's part of why I didn't respond directly, but I appreciate the apology.
Well, thank you for accommodating me.
Yeah, thank you. I think this has been a somewhat polarizing conversation, and I just want to reiterate that all value kept standing here and all perspectives and input kept standing here. And so I appreciate all of them. And I think that we are listening. We want to hear all of them. I know that there was a concern raised earlier about, I think, one particular place there's been some back and forth is around tribal perspective and tribal input. And I just want to acknowledge that we understand tribal perspectives vary. They are not monolithic. And so any one person's input, it's either on behalf of themselves or on behalf of an organization or a tribal government that they represent. And we don't expect there to be one perspective from any sort of defined people, especially not on the tribal front. I think that I've appreciated hearing all these comments. There are many that I could reiterate. I think one thing I heard many times was that we sort of skimmed over that bear ecology section, and I agree with many commenters who said that, I expect this will be in there, but benefits of black bear ecologically and economically roles they play. I heard that a number of times. Again, the management plan is not recommending particular actions or regulations. It is a foundation of knowledge, of researched understanding about bear populations, bear status, bear movement, everything that Brett described to undergird those decisions. But as the commission, it is important to us to hear from folks about what kinds of decisions they want us considering. And
So you're information gathering, correct?
That's right. And this is an information gathering process. So at the end of this item, all we're doing is looking forward to continuing to receive input because the plan won't be drafted yet sometime. So thank you all for the input. I know everyone's been waiting for a while for our lunch break, and I want to let us go ahead and take that. How long do we need to take?
All right, so you've been hearing a very contentious hearing, California Fish and Wildlife.
And
basically, I would like to respond to what I can't respond to now because I've been cut off. When, it reminds me of the movie Don't Look Up.
We, the people, do not want animals killed. Conservative means.
Public comment period is now closed, but I would like to invite staff or department members if they have any closing remarks.
Killing is not safe.
Okay, so I
I
need,
appreciate the opportunity. Let's go ahead and move forward and recess for lunch. I think that's a great idea. Thank you for everyone's
People
time.
trying to get their,
Chad,
people
before we
trying to get
do,
in.
I'm gonna reiterate for participants on Zoom. We do not always allow the public to have their audio and video freely open as we have today. We don't do this all the time. And if this continues to work, where we can have a respectful conversation and not interrupt people or interrupt the meeting, we will continue to do it. But if we begin to have problems, we will not do this any longer, and we'll go back to a webinar format where everyone is individually muted and unmuted one at a time. We would prefer not to do that. That's not what these committee meetings are about. These committee meetings are intended to be a dialogue and an opportunity to work together and troubleshoot and discuss issues of importance related to our fish and wildlife in California. And we would like to have this continue to be a dialogue. So please be respectful of each other and the process. So that we can do that.
Privileged to have it presented like this.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, everyone. We're going to recess for lunch. It's almost 1 o'clock here, and we need to make sure that we have a chance to get their lunch. So let's go till 1:40, 40-minute lunch break.
All right.
We're
We're going to leave that. We're leaving that. And we're leaving that meeting and getting back onto StreamYard. Wow. I don't know if you heard that last back and forth, but I did in the chat, send a message to one of the commissioners saying, don't confuse a sense of urgency with rudeness. Check out the film, Don't Look Up. We remember the classic scene where the character, I think it was Jennifer Lawrence played, I'm not sure. But anyway, the female character and Leonardo DiCaprio are on this TV show, and the female character is like, there's a meteor, it's going to hit Earth. And the newscaster is basically like, lighten up, lady, you know, you're really strident. And that's what this hearing reminds me of. It's like they are so concerned with us not being strident, but they are the ones that are managing our wild population into extinction. Okay, if somebody is in a burning house, are you going to accuse them of being rude if they shake you awake and say, get out, the house is burning? So the selective indignation, the lack of outrage over the slaughter, the killing of these bears, the trapping of these bears, the decimation of the bear population, combined with the so concerned attitude toward people being strident in the meetings where they're managing bears into extinction, is mind-blowing. I don't think there should be anything called fish and game. That just says the mentality right there, that animals are to be hunted. So, you know, we just have to speak truth to power the best we can. I was firm, but I don't think I was rude. And ditto for everybody else who spoke. So, you know, are their minds made up? Are they going to do what they were always going to do, no matter what, no matter whether we spoke or not? I don't know. I pray that that's a cynical attitude and that they actually will consider our opinions. Stay right here at Unchained TV for the very latest in all things animal rights, and we will continue to bring you this kind of coverage.